Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Hook Nation. Today I will show you how to make these beautiful crochet raffia coasters. If you are a beginner, this is a great project to try as it is easy to follow and it takes about just 1 hour to make. So let's start! To make these coasters you will need raffia yarn, and I will leave my favorite raffia yarns in the description below with links to where you can find them and to where I buy them. You will also need a stitch marker or a safety pin if you don't have one, and I will be using a 4.5mm crochet hook. And finally you will also need a crochet needle for those finishing touches. The first step is to make a magic circle. To make the magic circle, start by looping the yarn around your hand twice, making a cross and holding it with your thumb. Then grab your crochet hook and slide it under loop number 1, grabbing loop number 2 and pulling it under loop number 1. Twist the hook and again grab your loop number 2 and pull it through to make a chain stitch. If you have never done a magic circle before, just watch what I'm doing because the first few times can be a bit challenging, but you will get there. For row number 1, make 6 single crochet stitches. Do not pull the yarn too tight, otherwise it will be difficult to work with it later. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now grab your stitch marker and mark the first single crochet so that you know where you are. And we are going to close the magic circle. To do that, you want to find the short yarn end and pull it until the circle closes, like so. Tighten it as much as you can and make sure that you can see your single crochets well. Then we start row number 2. For row number 2, we are going to make 2 single crochets for each single crochet of the row before. So you should have 12 single crochets in the row when you finish. Because we are going to be working in a spiral, it's very important that you mark the first single crochet of each row like I'm doing here. In row number 3, we are going to be alternating between making 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next, and then 2 single crochets in the stitch after that, and so on until you finish the row. In row number 4, we are going to repeat what we did in the previous row, so make 2 single crochets to start. Don't forget to mark that first one so that you don't lose where you are. And then make 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the stitch after that, and continue until you finish the row. If you think that I am going too fast, you can always reduce the speed of the video, and that way you can see what I'm doing in slow motion, and that may be easier for you to follow. In row number 5, we are going to be working with 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet for 2 stitches after that, and then 2 single crochets again, and then 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and so on and so forth until we finish this row. Please remember to keep the tension of the yarn a bit loose, because if you make it tight, the coaster is going to start cupping, but we want it to be flat, so you need to have some looseness in your tension. Row number 6 is going to be just like row number 5, so we are going to be working with 2 single crochets and then 1 single crochet in the 2 stitches after that, and then 2 single crochets, and so on and so forth. Row number 7 is going to be the last row where we are increasing, so we are going to do 1 single crochet for each stitch in the previous row. So this is just a row of single crochets. When you get to the end of row number 7, you want to close the row with a slip stitch where that stitch marker is. Then we are going to do one more row, but this time we are not going to be increasing the size of the pattern. We are just going to be making a finishing rim around the coaster, and that is done by making one slip stitch per single crochet. So just go around and make one slip stitch all around. And again, you want to close the row with a slip stitch. Grab your scissors and you can cut the yarn and pull it through, making a closing knot so that the project doesn't come undone, and pull it as tight as you can. Now with my crochet needle I am going to be doing the finishing touches. So I'm going to start by passing that yarn end that's at the rim of the coaster to the back so that it's not visible. On the back of the coaster you want to weave in the yarn end in between the stitches as best as you can in order to hide it. So go back and forth a few times, and what I am doing here is I'm weaving the yarn end towards the center of the coaster, and then in a bit I'm going to be weaving the loose yarn end in the center towards the rim, and then I'm going to knot them together so that this is really secure and does not come undone. I am tying both of the yarn ends with a square knot. Usually I do 2 square knots just to make sure that the ends don't come undone, but that is a bit over the top and you don't have to do that. 1 square knot is usually enough. Go ahead and use the scissors to trim the ends, and as you can see it is barely visible. So now we are ready to start the embellishment or the fringe of the coaster. I am cutting pieces of yarn that measure 10.5 centimeters just because I felt like that was the most aesthetically pleasing length, but you can choose to cut the pieces as long as you want. And because I chose to put 2 pieces in each single crochet stitch, that means that I have to cut 96 pieces of yarn. Fold your yarn in half, and then we are going to make a single fringe knot, which basically means that you are going to pull through both ends through the loop, and then you are going to tighten. Be careful when you're tightening your fringe, because if you pull it too hard it may break. In order to give the coaster the volume that I want, I am going to put 2 pieces of fringe for each single crochet. Finally, we are going to trim the fringe to make sure that the coaster is nice and symmetrical, and it's always best to be conservative when you're doing this, because if you cut too much you cannot go back. So take your time and really make sure that the coaster is looking how you want it to look. If you want to, you can widen the raffia and plump it up a little bit to make the coaster look more voluminous. And this is it. This is your final product. If you decide to recreate this project, please tag me on Instagram because I would love to see what you guys create, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!